Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 12, week 12, whatever you want to call it, of Doug's Movie Corner Pod. Apologies if it's a day late. Life happens, as you know. I'm going to just do a quick blurb at the top, otherwise, I just want to get into it because there is quite a bit of movies I watched this week because I was sick. So I was at home a lot. If you're new here, I watch movies that talk about movies. It's really self explanatory, and I just give them a quick review. I'll go a little bit more into it at the end if I have time. Kind of button up against my work start for the day. But with that, let's just kind of quickly get into it. I finished last week with Reign of Fire from 2002. So if you listen to the previous episode, that's where we're leaving off from. From there, I started this week with The Dead Don't Die. It came out in 2019. This was a choice to watch over Discord with a friend. And I think it was a dark, dry comedy that just didn't really work for me. It was a pretty odd, out there movie. Not in like a Tim Burton odd. It's kind of as a odd movie. I gave it a 2 out of 5. I like the people in it. If you look, it's got an interesting cast. Like it's a interesting duo of Bill Murray and Adam Driver, both kind of odd individuals, for lack of a better word. Tilda Swinton is I'm gonna say spoiler, but she's an alien, but it's a zombie movie. She's got a samurai sword. There's all kinds of weird things going on. But it doesn't really get going easily for the first hour. It's just kind of like a slow nothingness. It doesn't really even feel like build up. It just feels like, oh, this is a movie that we are slowly getting into. From there, I got sick, so I stayed in and just watched movies all day. So there's gonna be quick 4 or 5 in a row that I watched all in the same day. That was starting with the 2004 I Heart Huckabees, which most people do not know about this. I had never heard of it. It's an odd concept. It's about existential, like, therapists following multiple people that are interacting with each other. It's like Jason Schwartzman, Dustin Hoffman, Lily Tomlin, Jude Law, Mark Wahlberg, Naomi Watts. There's a ton of people. Just, I think it was almost too heady. I've heard, like, I don't know what the right word is, but too heady. Like, I like something introspective and intelligent, but this was almost I don't know if media or like if I don't know if a movie was the right media for this story. I don't maybe a book, maybe. It was a lot that they were trying to do visually that I don't know if it landed. And I referenced this really lightly on this current last episode, I think, of the Movie Bros Pod, which is the one I do with my brother Hayden. Check that out, obviously. I gave it a 2 out of 5. Wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but I feel like there could have been a lot more done with it. Um, it was an odd concept, and I don't know if the execution of that concept was good. From there, I definitely mixed it up to a much lighter note with Caddyshack from 1980. I'd always seen snippets of it on TV as a kid. I never actually sat down and watched it. Uh, it's a crazy fun movie. I would not say it's a good movie, but it's a crazy fun movie. I think I gave it a 2.5 to 3 out of 5. I mean, Bill Murray and Chevy Chase. I think this is around. I don't know like the exact timeline of their SNL careers, but I think this is around the time that they were either popping off or they were like stepping away from SNL to do other things. Either way, they're lots of fun. The main crazy guy, not crazy, but just like very eccentric. What's that guy's name? Rodney Dangerfield. I mean, I feel like everyone kind of knows Caddyshack. It's one of those movies that is, almost universally known. Most people, I feel like, know what it is. Either way, if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. It's very much of its time. You're not going there for like this like Oscar-winning performance, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like '80s movies understood that you don't need that in every movie, which I can very much appreciate. From there, from 1980, I jumped ahead to 2011. Recently, I watched Sherlock Holmes, the first one with Robert Downey Jr., so I watched the second one, which is Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. Again, it's Guy Ritchie. I like his his way of directing. I like Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock Holmes. At least it's something different. Also really like Jude Law as Dr. Watson. I like Moriarty as Moriarty. I wish they had made a third one of these sooner after. I know they're still talking about making a third one, but I feel like those guys are starting to age out of the roles. They're starting to get old. It happens. But yeah, just it's a fun rewatch. I gave it a 3, 3.5. Like it's pretty good, especially for the timing. This was, over a decade ago, and it still looks pretty good. There's a couple slow mo scenes that are very much Guy Ritchie, whether it be the fighting or the detective-y stuff. Yeah, I very much enjoyed that. From there, I watched A History of Violence, which is 2005. It's Viggo Mortensen. If you've never heard of it, you're probably not alone. It wasn't this crazy big thing. Basically, it was a hitman who stopped being a hitman for a long time and disappeared into the country. And then he somehow kind of gets discovered again. I feel like his cover name, I can't remember what I think is like Tom Stilts or something like that. Kind of I don't know, just an odd name. Could have picked a better name. But there are a couple parts of this where he's got some history of violence for a reason. Like he messes some people up and it's kind of dope. And it's not over dramatized. It's like he's doing what he has to do in the moment. There's not a ton of music. It's just this is what's happening, which I like. That's part of the reason why I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. What I didn't like is it felt there wasn't any rise or fall of the story. It was kind of just like, oh, this thing happened, and it's more or less just kind of the fallout of this one thing. It didn't feel like there was building at all. It was just like, this is happening. So that was History of Violence. So that was 2005. From there, I went over and stayed in 2005. I rewatched because I think I've seen this at some point. I don't remember a ton about it, but I rewatched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which if you've never heard of it, this is Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr. early 2000s. Uh, it's fun. It's definitely of its time. It kind of wanders a little bit. There are parts that I don't think really are 100% needed, but there's ridiculousness, and there's some parts that I'm genuinely laughing about. Uh, Pre Iron Man, uh, post Top Gun for Val Kilmer. Yeah, just a fun time. If it's a not super well known one, but if you have the time, I would say check it out. It's good. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And from there, I know I'm just kind of flying through these folks, but I figure, hey, there's a lot to get done. And these just are going to be quick little reviews. Again, this is more of almost like a companion podcast to the Movie Bros, which I do with my brother Hayden once a week. From there, I watched Black Mass. This had been on my watch list for a long time. The makeup on Johnny Depp in this is pretty amazing. The acting is all right. The sets are pretty good. The story is fine. It drags a bit. Uh, and I know a lot of it is based on a true story, which is cool. But I feel like it could have, I don't know, I feel like it was like 70% there and then they just put it out. And I don't know I don't know what more I could have changed, but it did feel incomplete. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. So good, not great. That was from 2015. Joel Egerton's good in it. Benedict Cumberbatch with a accent, like a South Boston accent, does not work for me, if I'm being perfectly honest. But from there, what a palate cleanse. I rewatched, because again, I feel like I've seen this at some point. I rewatched Leatherheads. This is such a fun movie. Is George Clooney just like everybody's like favorite lovable person? There's a couple people like that, like him, Tom Hanks, even people like Brad Pitt. Like, yes, they are like the pretty boys of Hollywood, but there's also a reason why they know what they're doing. They've been doing this forever. Clooney directed this. He also started it with Jim from The Office, aka John Krasinski. Uh, yeah, it just feels like George Clooney cannot do any wrong. This is definitely sometimes very cheesy. The main chick, I cannot remember Her name, I think it's Renee Zegwiller? Zeg something? In the comments, correct me, and I'm sure I'm wrong. Either way, it was a good time. Yes, absolutely was a good time. I checked out all of George Clooney's directorial stuff? No, but after rewatching this, and I think I've seen other things, I feel like I've got a good I feel like I have a good time with it, so it's something I might pursue more. So I gave that 3.5 out of 5. From there, I went to a unknown, but recommended to me by a friend, so it's been on my watch list for a long time, called Falling Down. This is from 1993. This is not a one shot, but it's pretty continuously as like following this dude. One day where he kind of just loses it in traffic in LA, and he's trying to get home to see his like estranged ex-wife who he's violent towards, and daughter because it's his daughter's birthday. It's a whole thing, but you don't know that's the situation for the long time. He's just kind of this like nonchalant guy who's like getting out of his car on the freeway and just like walking the miles home, and like things happen to him as he walks home, and it's just him slowly going farther and farther off the deep end. Surprisingly very good. Obviously, I think that's why it was recommended to me. 3.5, maybe to 4 out of 5. But this is a Joel Schumacher movie, which I am shocked. If you don't know who Joel Schumacher is, that's the Batman director that did the nipples that everyone knows. He also did Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, like the super, super campy one, which they're fun, but this is way, way different from that. But just so you have a reference, this was starring Michael Douglas and Robert Duvall as a cop in it towards the end. Yeah, just super different from the kind of one of the only other things I know from Joel Schumacher. And that's where we're at, folks. I'll probably hopefully watch something tonight after work. So I'll have to get into another week of the Doug's Movie Corner to log and kind of talk about to you, excuse me, next week. That was a quick little ramble. I think that was like 7 or 8 movies or something like that. And again, I plan on these being, 15 to 20, 25 minutes, somewhere around there. So that's why I was trying to talk fast and not say a ton. And like I said at the top, I'd explain a little bit more at the bottom about what this is. So I do have a podcast with my brother Hayden where once a week we pick a movie, we watch a movie, we banter and ramble about that movie. And I realize I feel like I have more things to say about either the movie we watched or movies I watched that week that sometimes Hayden and I do not have time to talk about. So this is kind of a companion podcast to that. The conversation there I find is much better than just me rambling here. So if you want more of something a little bit more perhaps interesting, I'd say check that out. That's on Spotify and on Instagram at the movie_bros. This podcast, again, you've probably found it on Spotify, but it's again also on Instagram at Dunk's Movie Corner Pod. Both podcasts are posted weekly, and let us know. A, if there's something I should be watching or shouldn't be watching. B, if there's something Hayden and I should watch and review and ramble about. Or C, if you agree or don't agree with something that I just watched and rated. You can also find me on Letterboxd. That's where I post my reviews and all my ratings and how I keep track of my movies. I think I'm at Dunkin' 8 Donuts on there. And that was, I think that was week 12, folks. We did it. We hung in there. If you're new, thanks for checking me out. If you are not new, thanks for hanging in there. Speaking from a semi-still sick, stuffy nose, clogged throat person, I appreciate the 15 minutes or so that you hang out with me. And I hope you have a good week, and I'll see everyone next week.